From the author of Spinsterella, the strange and unusual romance and spellbound, a darker shade of black comes the legendary Magic Joker. Pick up the conclusions of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. I was reading through some of the responses to the Black Panther trailer videos, and while I read through these comments and read many disturbing things, I wasn't fazed and I wasn't surprised, because when it comes down to this Afro-American Negro and the dysfunctional way that they think and behave, nothing much surprises me regarding their behavior. Now, when it comes down to this Afro-American Negro and this Black Panther trailer, they show me how much they love white folk, because when I look at the way they write responses that are so emotional, when anybody makes a critique regarding this Black Panther trailer, they show me how much they love white people. Because if this Black Panther movie was created by a black company and had a black production staff, I doubt people would be getting as emotional about this movie. Now, what most people will tell you when their first argument about this Black Panther movie is that the Black Panther movie is made by a black screenwriter, a black director, and has black actors in it. But what most Afro American Negroes don't understand is that these are Negroes they place on the surface to make things appear black. And once you go behind the scenes of this film and see who is in charge of the paychecks, who is the executive producer, you start to see that those people are white. And you also start to see that the people who are making your Black Panther movie are employees of the Disney Corporation. And the Disney Corporation has a long history of doing things to degrade the image of the African American Negro in film. And that's been since the inception, because your Walt Disney was a racist and a white supremacist. So how are you going to get a positive image of an African American, or an African in this case, from a company which has historically been racist and white supremacist towards black people? I mean, Disney was the corporation that gave us the Song of the South. And the Song of the South was made in the 1930s or the 1940s and featured a character named Uncle Remus, who was nothing more than a minstrel. And this was Walt Disney's only film to feature an African American character in a lead role, until we got Princess and the Frog during the later 2000s. And The Princess and the Frog itself was also a racist film, because in that film, yes, we got a black princess, which was the passive part, but the aggressive part was we didn't get a black male prince. No, Princess Tiana wound up with a Arab man, Naveen, as her prince. So what they did with The Princess and the Frog was show us that they did not see black on black love. What they did was they gave you a princess, but they didn't give her a black prince to live happily ever after with. And after making your Princess and the Frog, a couple years later, your Disney Corporation goes out here and hires Shonda Rhimes, a black woman, to go create a television show called Scandal. And on this Scandal television show, we have this rich, powerful black woman who works for the government, who is the side piece to the president of the United States. So we have multiple examples here of this Disney Corporation participating in racism and white supremacy. But these Afro American Negroes believe we're going to get an amazing Black Panther movie that's going to present a positive portrayal of the Afro American Negro, showing me how delusional this Negro is, especially when you think about the productions that were just produced this year. Now, in addition to your Scandal and other shows like Blackish, which show us that a black man is a scared brother even though he has success, this year your Disney Corporation escalated its war on the Negro image with The Bachelorette this summer. And with this Bachelorette show that they produced this summer, which featured the first black Bachelorette, we saw your first black Bachelorette go out of her way to emasculate black men, treat black men like children, and humiliate black men as she was supposed to be courting for the man who she would believe would love her. But on that show, as she went on her way, she first eliminated a man who was wearing a $6,000 Brioni suit, worked at a job that was equal to hers, and eliminated him in the first episode. Later on, as this Bachelorette series went on, she eliminated four black men in one episode of this Bachelorette, like wrestlers in the Royal Rumble. I thought I was watching Kane eliminate people in the 2001 Royal Rumble, the way those black men were tossed over the top on this Bachelorette show. And all that Bachelorette show was all about was presenting the image of the black female deifying and worshiping white men. Because at the end of that Bachelorette show, all Rachel Lindsay picked was a white man at the end of that show. No different than your Princess and the Frog, where we saw Princess Tiana holding the arm and being saved by a non black man. A slap in the face to this Afro American Negro male who was sitting there coveting and lusting, believing that this Black Panther movie is going to be the thing that presents him in a positive light. And he hasn't even looked at the 2017 fall schedule to look at a little ABC show called The Mayor. Now, this Mayor is a certified minstrel show, and on this Mayor show, we have this Courtney Rose, who is an aspiring rapper, and he makes raps in his closet, who decides to run for mayor just to get his name out there so he can get a record deal. And he then wins the role of the mayor of his county, and this young male is shown to be completely incompetent, completely in over his head, and he needs a little white girl to come in and show him how to govern his municipality. This show is a minstrel show that comes straight out of the 30s with scripts that come straight out of old Amos and Andy episodes. And this black man's interactions with people are on the level of something with Shirley Temple and Al Jolson. But these Afro American Negroes who are so caught up in the fever for this Black Panther movie believe they're going to get a positive portrayal of the Black Panther in this movie and a positive portrayal of African American men in this film, even though the history of the Disney Corporation shows us that their view of black men expresses nothing but contempt for them, and this contempt is shown to them even in their most recent projects like The Mayor, like The Bachelorette, like Scandal, like The Princess and the Frog, and you can go all the way back to your Uncle Remus. But we're going to get a positive portrayal of the Black Panther and a positive portrayal of black men. But I'm not going to laugh too much about these Negroes because these Negroes, they are just caught up in their emotions, caught up in their own delusion, and they don't want to see the reality regarding this Black Panther movie. No, they are betting all their hopes, their wishes, and their dreams on this Black Panther movie, believing that it's going to lead to some sort of revolution and some sort of change regarding how the world sees them. Because all these emotional responses I see regarding this Black Panther movie, they are all about one thing: getting the love, attention, and approval of white folks. Because when it comes down to many of these Afro American Negroes, they love white folks. And this is something David Carroll has talked about. This is something I'm seeing with these responses. This is what it's all about. They love white folks. And they believe if they go out here and soldier for this Black Panther movie, they will get the love and attention from white folks. And they believe that this will lead to future opportunities of getting attention from white folks. If they like this character, the Black Panther, was created by two Jewish guys, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, it will lead to them getting acceptance from white people, and they can use that as an opportunity to get more attention from white people. Now, the producers of these movies, they have not made this contract with this Negro. This is a covert contract he has created with by himself and believes will be fulfilled by white folks by spending money to go see this movie, spending money to go support this movie. And he believes if he defends this movie, and defend the white people who make this movie, he will be getting an opportunity to get attention and approval from white people. Now, yes, there is a black director. Yes, there is a black screenwriter. But again, these are surface people. These are people who the white liberals at Disney put in front to be front people and have them out there to represent the product so they can win the favor and approval of the Afro American Negro, even though the Disney Corporation has gone out of its way to produce shows that degrade this Afro American Negro, like The Mayor, like Scandal, like Blackish, like this Bachelorette. But they're sitting there defending this Black Panther, believing that this black character created by white people and his representation of Africa, which is a white liberal interpretation of Africa, will lead to him getting more opportunities at African American fantasy being presented on screen. Even though history shows us that doesn't happen, because we look at your 1997 or 1998's Blade, Wesley Snipes went out of his way to make the first black vampire movie based on a Z-list Marvel character. And the movie was a tremendous success in spite of the lack of support from the movie studio. And Blade didn't lead to any sort of doors opening for the Afro-American Negro. No, after Blade was a tremendous success at the box office, what Hollywood did in its efforts to revive the superhero movie genre after Joel Schumacher killed it with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin was they pushed Wesley Snipes to the side and decided they were going to go out here and get Bryan Singer to go create an X-Men franchise for them, and then get Sam Raimi to create a Spider-Man franchise for them. And then after they became successful, Wesley Snipes and Blade became more and more of a footnote in the superhero movie genre as other popular franchises featuring white leads, such as the Batman Dark Knight trilogy, started to emerge, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe started to build its foundations. Once these films started getting more and more popular, we never heard a word about Wesley Snipes, a man who should be credited with going out of his way to revive an entire genre many thought dead back in 1997 after the release of Batman and Robin. But according to these Negroes, we're supposed to see some sort of revolution that's going to come from this Black Panther film release. And I'm here to tell you that this is not going to be 1984 and The Cosby Show. When it came down to Bill Cosby's Cosby Show, Bill Cosby's Cosby Show was a revolution because before The Cosby Show, all we got were stereotypes. And even in shows that were created for black people by white people, like What's Happening, Benson, there was still all sorts of stereotypes placed in those shows, even though those shows featured black actors in lead roles. And when it came down to black people, they didn't have much control over these shows, as evidenced by John Amos's vehement protest to the way James Evans was depicted on Good Times, because he and Esther Rolle vehemently protested the way these characters were presented, and even Robert Guillaume protested the way Benson was portrayed when they started running episodes of Benson. He was making efforts to try to present a more positive portrayal of Benson, and that's why we got a little bit of a change there. But with Good Times, when James Evans went to protest to the white producers, they killed James Evans. I mean, John Amos went out of his way, Esther Rolle, and both of them were so upset. They wound up both. John Amos was fired, and Esther Rolle wound up leaving the show because of the way they depicted African Americans in a stereotypical fashion on those programs. And when the Cosby Show came along, we had Bill Cosby, a man who was very well educated, very professional. He went out of his way to present you with a more balanced and humanized image, and a lot of black people got behind it because this was the first show to ever go out here and present us with a middle class family a balanced picture of black people, a picture of a responsible black man and a responsible black woman in a household with good, clean cut kids. And we didn't get that ever in the history of black cinema. And this was done because, one, you had a black man as one of the executive producers, and you had a black man in charge of the creative control. So he had part of control over the media and the narrative, and that's what was revolutionary. And that's what led to over 20 million people tuning in 1984. Now, The Cosby Show was a revolution for black people because it led to paving the way for other African Americans to come in and present more balanced and humanized images, like Robert Townsend. And the only way we got that media was because they spent their own money to create that media and create the narrative for that media. Because I remember reading about Robert Townsend and his creation of Hollywood Shuffle and how he used his own credit cards to create that film to make the commentary about how we got so many stereotypes being presented in films in Hollywood and how they were related to white people's view of black people, not how we viewed ourselves. Because throughout the film, Robert Townsend in his satire was showing us how we saw ourselves and then how the white people saw us and how it reflected on how we were seeing, how we were presenting ourselves and showing us how Hollywood relates to the black actor in Hollywood. And it's a very thought-provoking film, and I urge you to go see it because it shows us what happens when a black person uses their own money to tell their own story and create their own narrative. The same thing with Spike Lee when he came out in the late 80s with She's Gotta Have It, School Days, and Do the Right Things. She's Gotta Have It was made with Spike's own money, and that was a film, again, that was very revolutionary in showing us a more balanced and humanized image of African Americans. And when you look at Spike Lee's films, again, they show us artistry with the visuals because he had Ernest Dickerson as his director of cinematography. And then you see Spike's stories, which show us these rich, multi-dimensional characters. And then you look at his stories, which really show us how we see ourselves and how the world sees us. Early Spike Lee's are very thought-provoking films. They very much make a real powerful commentary on the African American image. And then you have guys like Reginald Hudlin and Warrington Hudlin who made House Party. And those pictures, again, show us a picture of black life through a black lens. And this is something that you aren't going to get from Disney as it relates to its Black Panther. We got some of that with Wesley Snipes' Blade. When you look at the visuals in Blade, they come from our view of things, not some white liberals. When I look at Disney's Black Panther, one of the reasons why I have an issue with it is because we're getting, again, a very white view, a very paternalistic view, and that's not a really good view you want kids to see of a black superhero. When I look at black superheroes, I think of something like Dwayne McDuffie's Static Shock. That also comes from a very African American perspective and presents our picture of ourselves. And again, that was something that fits our narrative and tells our story and tells stories from our experience. And that's why that cartoon is so great. And they don't really like having those out there because it doesn't tell the story that the white liberal wants to see about black people. And what they want to see regarding black people is the whole idea that there is an idea that the idea of an intelligent black man being some sort of aberration, some sort of anomaly, and the whole idea of a black male being a leader as some sort of anomaly, when that's something that's fairly common. So when I look at the way they present this Black Panther movie and they're presenting it as some sort of major event, it's not really a major event. What makes it a major event is that you have this mainstream media, which after the O.J. Simpson trial went out of its way to present more and more stereotypes of African Americans, and then when they try to give you one movie, they think it look like it's some sort of event when it's not. No, Bill Cosby with the Cosby Show was an event because that led to a major revolution. This I don't see leading to a major revolution because when I look at the picture of the media and I see all these SJWs on the liberal side with Disney, I see them with the same paternalistic ideas about black people because that's what I saw being presented in Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, Spider-Man Homecoming was supposed to be an adaptation, but they gave us white Peter Parker with black Miles Morales' story, and then they gave us diversity characters which were paper thin and extremely shallow, showing me that the SJW agenda is creeping in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and these stereotype diversity characters, which are just as bad as old 1970s diversity characters, are creeping in. That's another thing that has me apprehensive about this Black Panther movie, because when it comes down to this company, they are out to push this SJW narrative where they don't give you humanized black people. No, they give you stereotypes of black people, and they give you ideas about black people. Because we look at Spider-Man Homecoming, the only two black men in the movie were criminals, reinforcing my point earlier when I talked about this mayor scandal and all these other Disney forms of media and how they view black men. So I'm not expecting any sort of balanced or positive portrayal from a Black Panther movie, especially when I look at some of the visuals where I'm seeing things like grass skirts, plate lips, and other sort of stereotypical images. Moreover, I'm seeing an image of black manhood that is kind of a bit appalling to me when I see this Black Panther movie. I looked at a couple of frames in that trailer, and I'm seeing this Black Panther. He's surrounded by females, and a black man being surrounded by females, that's something that comes from the Afro-American Negro. That's not an African thing. Usually black African men are surrounded by other African men. And this comes again from that single mother household and that maternalistic household he comes from. So when I see Black Panther surrounded by Dora Milaje guards who are masculine females, and I see him always being around females in one of some of the frames, and then you have these white men, those images don't relate to a positive image of black masculinity. In contrast, when I look at Luke Cage, when you look at his view of black masculinity, he's surrounded by black men. In the first 6 episodes, he was surrounded by black men, and those black men were helping him shape his mission and the goals he wanted to set as a black man. When I look at this Black Panther, surrounded by females, and that's again another image that most Negroes aren't going to pay attention to because they're just so caught up in the whole emotions and ideas about seeing a black superhero, is that they're not thinking about what story is being told. Now, when I look at Static Shock and I saw a black superhero, I saw a story of a black superhero, but I also saw a black father in that picture, and that had a major impact on how that character was presented. When I see a black man surrounded by females, that tells me a story that's going to have some sort of dysfunction in that story. And when I look at guys like Killmonger, all emotional, again, telling me another story that's dysfunctional related to this Afro-American Negro. And again, I listen to the comments in the comment section, and most of these ad hominem attacks, they don't faze me, but they show me how troubling things are as related to this Afro-American Negro. Because this Negro will sit here, and again, he believes this pie in the sky dream that this film is going to be a revolution that leads to change in his image. And him going out of his way to support this product shows how nothing is going to change. Because if you're so emotional about a white person's product and you believe that you need to see this white person's product be a success in order to go out and support other black products, that's a core part of the problem with this Afro-American Negro. No, you should have been out here supporting black fantasy creators like myself, black comics creators like many of these people I know out here on Facebook and on other social media, and you should have been out here buying those products before that. It shouldn't take a Black Panther movie coming out in February 2018 for you to go out here to buy those products. And you shouldn't have to wait until February 2018 to go buy those products, because those products are the ones who present the most positive portrayal of black people, the most balanced portrayal of black people, the most humanized portrayal of black people. But you don't want to support those products because you need a permission slip from white people in order to do that. And that permission slip comes on the ticket of a Black Panther movie, showing us how much of a slave many Afro-American Negroes still truly are, and how they still believe in looking for white approval and white attention, and how all this anger about criticism of this Black Panther movie is all about defending white people because they all they want is the attention and approval of white people. And this is what this film is all really represents. It's a covert contract between the Afro American Negro and white people, and they believe if they fulfill their part of the bargain, white people will fulfill their part of the bargain. Unfortunately, white people never signed on for this, and this is not a bit about any sort of attention or approval for them. It's all about making money for them. And after they make their black dollars at the Negro's expense, what they're going to do is just like they did after Wesley Snipes revived the superhero movie genre, give the Negro absolutely nothing in exchange for his movie ticket other than another ticket to Avengers Infinity War, and that's going to be it because they never made a deal to make any more black superhero movies, black fantasy movies, or any other sort of movie with this Negro. And this Negro believes it's going to lead to an explosion in popularity in black fantasy and black science fiction. And that again shows me the low self esteem many of these Negroes have regarding their own image. If you want to have popularity for black fantasy, black science fiction, and black futurism, you should be creating that platform yourself. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm not looking for white approval or white attention because that's not what I came into this for. I came here to publish stories that I believe presented a positive image of African Americans, of balanced images of African Americans, and to show that there is diversity in the fantasy genre. I didn't come here looking for white attention, white approval, or to ask them to tell me that it's okay for me to sell my own stories and publish my own stories. No, I publish my own stories because that's what I want to do. And I know that when I control the money for those stories and I control the media for those stories, excuse me, I control the narrative of those stories. And controlling the narrative of those stories is the most important thing because that's why the image of those stories comes from a black view. And that black view is one of the most important things related to it. Now, a lot of these people in the comment section, they come at me talking about how I'm jealous and I'm bitter. I'm not jealous of anybody related to this Black Panther movie. I'm happy for their success, but I want people to temper all their emotions for this Black Panther movie with some logic and reason and some common sense and take a longer, more panoramic look at this Disney Corporation and how it presents their image and how their image is being presented in this film. Again, as a screenwriter, I look at this film and I don't see anything that impressed me. I see Marvel Studios just patronizing black people, making a Black Panther movie to try to make a fast black dollar in the same way Hollywood wanted to make a fast dollar during the black exploitation era when they were struggling. Because I look at Hollywood right now, Hollywood is struggling right now to make money, and they want to make a fast dollar at the expense of black people to keep themselves going until they can get to the next big hit. And this is something that the Negro doesn't understand about Hollywood as it relates to black people. They don't see black people as a priority. Their priority is white people in foreign markets. When it comes down to black people, they really don't see us as someone who's that important. If they did, they would have gone out of their way to produce this Black Panther movie years ago when Wesley Snipes revived the superhero genre. They wouldn't have just left it and waited till they made a dozen other movies and then went and made this movie. And I look at this Black Panther movie and all the hype behind it, and I want black people to temper that, again, that emotion with some common sense and to stop thinking so emotional because what you call bitterness is called discipline, and what you call being jealous is called the guy who has seen the business, has seen people get their hopes up, and seen people get thoroughly disappointed when they finally realized that Hollywood really wasn't about them. They were all about pushing the media that fits their narrative and tells the story they want to see about black people, and they want to see that story through a white lens, and in many cases, never through a black lens. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the East Eve series, and the Temptation of John Haynes, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.